Hello everyone and welcome to Good Nightmare, a podcast where we talk about things creepy, spooky, mostly historical, and often about female figures in history, I've noticed. I promise I will have some stories about dark male figures throughout history coming up as well, but the pattern seems to be that women tend to be quite intriguing. So today I'm going to delve into some folklore with you. This is a childhood game that really spooked me as a kid, and obviously I've never taken part in it and never plan to because I don't like to mess around with spirits and such. Before we get started, I just again want to say make sure you stay tuned until the end for a promo from another fantastic podcast. Now, I'm sure we're all familiar with the childhood game Bloody Mary. You stand in front of a mirror and you call for Bloody Mary 3 times, and she's said to appear, either as a malevolent spirit, a vision, or to tell you of your future husband. Like I said, I've personally never played because I'm disturbed enough by violent nightmares and waking hallucinations of spiders and children without calling a tormented spirit into my home. Though Bloody Mary has always been a favourite legend of mine. When I was 8 or so, I dressed up as her for a costume party. Ghost-like face, dark eyes and blood dripping from my lips, arms outstretched in a long wide dress. Probably more cute than creepy, but if you've ever had a sleepover or been on a school camp trip, it's likely that either you or someone else you know has attempted to call Bloody Mary forth. But after hearing the story of the woman who inspired the legend, you may find yourself less inclined to play with this particular spirit. Bloody Mary was a name given to Mary, Queen of England, a woman known for her violent reign and her tragic life. Mary was born to Henry VIII and his first wife, Catherine of Aragon, and she was the only child of Henry's to survive to adulthood. With Henry as her father and also being born female, you could say that she was doomed to tragedy from the beginning. While she was loved, she was not exactly wanted by her father, who required a male child to be his heir. Henry would get his wish much later with his son, Mary's half-brother, Edward VI, who would succeed their father at 9 years old in 1547. This would initially prevent Mary from taking the throne, for a little while. As a child, Mary was described as precocious or gifted. At age 4.5, she entertained a visiting French delegation with a performance on the virginals. By 9 years old, she was able to read and write Latin. She would study French, Spanish, music, and dance. Most would have considered her an ideal child, well-behaved, kind, smart, but that wouldn't be enough to save her from her fate or to save others from her reign. Her father, Henry, loved her greatly, though it can't go without saying that he was bitterly disappointed that his marriage had not resulted in the birth of any sons. He attempted to annul his marriage to Catherine, but his request was refused. So instead, Catherine was sent to live away from court and away from her daughter Mary. Mary was prohibited from ever seeing her mother, which affected her greatly. Mary was often sick, suffering depression and irregular menstruation. Though the cause of either was unclear, some at least put the depression down to a strained relationship with her father and having no contact with the mother that she loved so dearly. After sending away his first wife, King Henry VIII would then go on to marry Anne. His previous marriage to Catherine would be void, making Mary illegitimate and dissolving her household. Because of this affront, Mary refused to acknowledge Anne as the new Queen of England or her daughter Elizabeth as the princess. Henry was enraged by his daughter's disobedience. He and his daughter Mary would not speak for 3 years, and in this time she would be told of her mother's death. Mary was inconsolable. Eventually, Mary reconciled with her father, though not on her own terms, and resumed her place in court. During this time, historical records show that she was privy to spending on beautiful clothing and gambling at cards. She was intensely religious and involved in the Catholic faith. This would only further complicate her life and the lives of those who she would rule. King Henry VIII, upon his deathbed in 1553, attempted to remove Mary from the line of succession. He was opposed to her strict and intense Catholicism. No matter how he tried, he would be unsuccessful, and upon his own and later his son Edward's death, Mary took the throne. Mary would come to be the first Queen Regnant of England. She would reign for 5 years. Her first act upon becoming queen was to release the Roman Catholic Duke of Norfolk and Stephen Gardiner from their imprisonment in the Tower of London, an incredibly haunted landmark. They were both backers of her severe Catholicism. During Mary's short term as queen, she would have over 280 religious dissenters burned at the stake, which led Protestants to denounce her as Bloody Mary. Now that most of the violence in her life is spoken for, let's focus in on her more personal tragedies, something that also plays into the folklore or perhaps the game of Bloody Mary. Mary would marry at 37 years old and would experience a false pregnancy. A false pregnancy is the term used when a person experiences all the clinical or subclinical signs of pregnancy without actually being pregnant. This false pregnancy was apparently likely to be due to her strong desire to have a child of her own. Later, in 1557, Mary again thought she may be pregnant, with a baby due in March 1558. But when the time came, there was again no child to be born. In 1558, weak and ill and in pain, possibly from uterine cancer and ovarian cysts, Mary passed away at the age of 42. Mary's final wish was to be buried by her mother, but she was denied this reunion even in death. She was instead buried in a tomb that she would come to share with Elizabeth, the woman that she had refused to acknowledge as princess. The inscription on their shared tomb translates to read, "Consorts in realm and tomb, we, sisters Elizabeth and Mary, here lie down to sleep, in hope of resurrection." The folklore or childhood game of Bloody Mary stems from the tragic and violent life of this queen. The ritual originally consisted of young women walking backwards up a flight of stairs, holding a candle and a mirror in a dark house. While looking into the mirror, they were supposed to be able to see their future husband's face. However, if they were to see the face of a skull or death, they were doomed to die before they could marry. The ritual today consists of individuals or groups chanting Mary's name in a mirror placed in a dim or candlelit room. Bloody Mary would then appear as a corpse or a ghost. She may be kind or malevolent, clean or bloody. There is a modern edition of taunting Mary about the loss of her babies. Law states that people who have engaged in this game have endured being screamed at, strangled, or have had their eyes scratched out by the bloody apparition. As I said, this isn't something that I would ever be interested in trying. I see ghosts and apparitions, possibly hallucinations or waking nightmares, without invoking any. But that might be a story for another time. If you're a skeptic or a non-believer, you may prefer the scientific explanation for the phenomenon. Staring into a mirror in dim lighting can cause hallucinations. You may see faces shifting shapes, melting or appearing. Giovanni Caputo calls this the strange face illusion, which may be caused by a kind of dissociative identity effect. I have experienced this before because what's more fun late at night than freaking yourself out by staring into a mirror in a dark room trying to see ghosts? It's not like I'm getting any sleep anyway. Let me know if you've ever played Bloody Mary or perhaps a similar game like the Candyman, where apparently you say his name 3 times into a mirror and he is said to appear behind you and run you through with a pole. Also, let me know if you've heard any other versions of how to play these creepy games. You can contact me via email or social media. And if you have any stories that you would like to hear shared on the podcast, please be sure to send me an email. These can be stories of your own experiences, nightmares, or suggestions for the podcast that you would like to be shared or read aloud on an episode. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review, or perhaps recommend me to a friend or a group that you're a part of. It helps immensely, and I'm very thankful for the support as always. If you want to get in touch with me on social media, I am on Twitter and Instagram at goodnightmare_s. Alternatively, you can email me at goodnightmare_s@outlook.com. Make sure to stay tuned for a promo/recommendation for another fantastic podcast. As always, thank you so much for listening. Every one of you who downloads an episode, gives it a listen, even if it's just once and never again, you have helped to make this journey of mine incredibly special and beyond just fun. Anyway, that's enough mushiness from me. Thank you so much for listening. Sweet dreams.
Hi, this is Ben.
And this is Alex. Do you like unsolved mysteries? How about urban legends and folklore? If you do, you should tune into our podcast, Mysteries and Urban Legends, every Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday, as we explore unsolved mysteries and the origins and meanings of urban legends. Look for us on iTunes, Stitcher, and all other major podcatchers. You can also find us on all social media at Mall Podcast.
So come on and give us a listen and enjoy.